Today, I want to remind our gathering here, our history is not just a series of events. It is a saga of resilience, courage, and the unyielding pursuit of sovereignty. Today marks more than 96 years of our express to remain free from all forces that was miserably failing in trying to subjugate us as the Naga people. 10 January 1929, the Naga Club, on behalf of the Naga people, wrote to the Simon Commission stating, if the British government to leave India, then leave the Naga people free. On 14 August 1947, the Naga people, under the able leadership of Naga National Council, declared their independence from all imperialistic force. The Naga nation became independent one day ahead of even the mighty India. Befittingly, the then leader of the Naga national movement resisted the force of trying to integrate the Naga homeland within the Indian Union. Their vicious attempt to dampen our collective spirit by arbitrarily bifurcating the Naga homeland into India and Burma is what we inherit today. The Naga people, we never consented to the signing the instrument of accessions, which it has happened. The Naga people become a part of the Indian Union or Burma, neither by conquest nor by consent. This is the unique history of the Naga people, and this unique history remains the guiding force behind our assertion for self-determination. The presence of the Naga people gathered today, this morning, show the symbolic strength our convictions, as well as our aspirations, even concern about the presence and what may lie ahead for our people. This gathering itself is a symbolic expression. It is a call to action, a reminder to honor our past, cherish the present, and build a brighter future. The Naga Morung, historically a cornerstone for Naga society, a vital institution where our young boys and girls learn the costume, traditions, and history of our people. However, with modern time, we have declined in the tradition, resulting in generational gap in understanding among the younger generations about our historical and political heritage. It is for these very reasons that Naga Morung, with the concept, with the theme, Kuknalim, which means victory to our people, is being corrupted and organized by the Naga Students Federation to instill dignity in our young Nagas by educating about our history, our identity, and our culture. Today, I want to take us a moment to reflect on the priceless heritage handed down to us by our forefathers. Our Naga people have long been praised for its value of honesty, integrity, and mutual respect. However, as we reflect today, we must ask ourselves, how far are we living up to the expectations? Are we truly upholding the principle that define us? This is a moment for self-evolutions, a time to realign ourselves with the value of our forefathers, which have cherished. As we navigate this modern world, it is essential to distinguish between our faith, our religion, and our costume. Our religion connects us to a higher power. Faith sustains us in hope and belief, and costume binds us to our rich cultural heritage. Each has its significance and should be upheld without conflicts or compromise. While religions and faith are personal, costume unite us. It preserves our identity and our culture. Instead, let us commit to representing both, ensuring that neither overshadow the other. In pursuit of modernity, the sad reality we find ourselves increasingly influenced by the foreign culture. While change is inevitable, it must not come at the cost of our identity, our rich tradition. Language and heritage define who we are as a people. Today, many of our dialects are fading, and with them a part of our history. To preserve our unity and identity, we must work towards or develop a common Naga language, one that binds us together while honoring our dignity. To my dear students, friends, to my dear leaders, we are the stewards of our heritage. The culture of our history, our culture, our identity rests in our hands. Let us take pride in our root, strive to keep our tradition, history alive, and ensure that they remain vibrant and meaningfully in the years to come. The responsibility requires dedications. but it also offered the immense rewards of preserving our own identity and honoring the effort those who have come before us. The Kuknalim team symbolized victory, resilience, and collective aspirations of the Naga people. For our self-determinations and identity. Through this team, they even aim to highlight the enduring spirits of the Naga struggles and envision a prosperous future for the Naga community. Today, as we commemorate these auspicious occasions, on behalf of the Naga Student Federation, I want to convey the message to our political groups. I want to assure our Naga people that Naga Students Federation shall continue to strive for a unified lane that will not rest until our desired goal for determination of our own future is achieved. It should remain that the ultimate goal for every Naga individual that our identity, our unique history, and the resulting right is respected and honored by every single force in act. Make no mistake that the Naga Student Federations will never accept a piecemeal solutions to any protracted Indo-Naga political issue. What solution that is come should be mutually agreed upon the negotiating table between the Naga leader and the government of India. NSF in no way will accept any solution that will enforce upon our people. We will remain dedicated to inclusive, honorable, and acceptable solutions to all these long-pending political issues that say total sovereignty shall continue to be our ultimate goal. May God bless us all. May God bless our Naga people for unified limbs and glories of Nagas. Kuknalim.
Nagas are a group of tribes known for our distinct cultures, languages, dialects, and our rich tradition. We are inhabitants of the northeastern part of India and inhabitants of a substantial portion of Burma, now Myanmar. Aside from the state of Nagaland, which is wholly inhabited by the Naga people, a significant Naga population resides in Manipur, Arunachal, and Assam in India. Nagas have resisted alien rule. This is recounted as early as 1832, when the first Anglo-Konama Angami Naga battle was fought. It took the British as many as 11 expeditions, losing a lot of lives, to subjugate 2 Angami villages. The British described the expedition as extraordinary stubbornness on the part of the Konama Angami Naga. Prior to the battle and encounter with British, our forefathers have actively resisted any form of intrusion to our land by the Ahoms, by the Dimasas, the Kacharis, the Manipuris, and the Burmese. In 1929, Naga people submitted a memorandum to the British Simon Commission, which was a statutory commission to report to the working of the Indian Constitution established by the Government of India Act 1919. The outcome of the Simon Commission was the Government of India Act 1935. As per the demand of the Naga Memorandum to the Simon Commission, the Government of India Act 1935 left the Nagas outside the reform scheme of India and placed the Naga people under the excluded area category. This was later unilaterally abrogated by government of India. Sensing the British Parliament preparedness to grant independence to India, Naga people went to Delhi to meet Mahatma Gandhi, the father of the Indian nation, to ascertain the Naga people's position from him on July 19, 1947, wherein Mahatma Gandhi told the Naga delegation that Nagas have every right to be independent. Following this assurance, Naga people declared our independence on 14 August 1947, one day before India declared her independence. The message of the Declaration of Independence was sent to the government of India, to the King of England, to the Secretary General of the United Nations Organization, and the officers of all the embassies in New Delhi. To further authenticate, legitimize, and endorse the declaration of the Naga independence, the Nagas under the aegis of Naga National Council, NNC, Naga plebiscite was conducted on 16 May 1951, wherein 99.9% voted in favor of independent Naga homeland. The visit of the Indian Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru and the British Premier Yu Nu to Kohima and Khamti in 1953 was a harbinger of gruesome history in Indo-Naga relations, as an indiscriminate demarcation of boundary was curved between India and Burma without the consultation of the Naga people, and notably dividing the Konyak country into different nations with an international border cutting right through the middle of the house of the Ang of Longwa village in Mon district, which was followed by an onset of bloodshed and agony because of the open conflict between Nagas and the Indian armed forces. The resistance of foreign rule, which started in isolated pockets in the earliest form, gradually evolved into a Naga national movement. The Naga National Council, under the visionary leadership of A.Z. Pizo, gave a distinct identity and clear direction to Naga nationalism by representing the entire Naga people with the objective of integrating all the Naga inhabited areas. In order to appease the Nagas, the government of India entered into a 16-point agreement with some Naga overground leaders who had formed the Naga People's Convention in 1960, which led to the creation of the present Nagaland state. The 13th point of the 16-point agreement reads, and I quote, "The other Naga tribes inhabiting the areas contiguous to the present Nagaland be allowed to join the state of Nagaland if they so desired." Close inverted. In keeping with the spirit of the letter of this agreement and upholding the desire with the spirit, the desire and aspiration of the Naga people to live together under one administrative umbrella, the Nagaland Legislative Assembly has passed resolutions on several occasions for the integration of all Naga inhabited areas, including on 12 December 1964 during the chief ministership of P. Shulu Au. On 28 August 1970, during the Chief Ministership of Tokishe Sema, on 16 September 1994, during the Chief Ministership of Dr. S.C. Jamir, on 18 December 2003, during the Chief Ministership of Dr. Nipi Rio, and most recently, on 27 July 2015, during the Chief Ministership of T.R. Zillian. The desire of the Nagas to live together under one administrative unit should not be undermined or compromised. In the last couple of years, the state of Manipur has seen a massive demographic upheaval that has resulted in the loss of precious, innocent lives and property, an internal displacement of people. This conflict has polarized the populace of the present state of Manipur into opposing camps. While it is not my intention to delve into the whys and hows of the conflict, I want to remind the people, and not just the Nagas, that eventually, after the flames of violence simmer down, we must accept the undeniable fact that nobody can live in a vacuum. Nobody can live in a world where one neighbor is perpetually distrust or hated by the other. We, the people, must find a way to peacefully coexist with each other. It is imperative that we find and explore ways to settle our differences without restoring to mindless violence. Violence only perpetrates violence without settling anything, a vicious cycle of hatred, suspicions, and fear that has no end. I take this opportunity to call upon all the stakeholders to desist from perpetrating violence on the other with impunity, but engage in people-to-people dialogue and find non-violence means to settle conflicts. The free movement regime, while it was re-established in 2018 as part of India's Ek East policy, has been making headlines for the Nagas in recent times. The unilateral decision of the government of India to scrap the FMR has caused unrest, apprehension amongst people living in the India-Myanmar border in the northeastern states of Arunachal Pradesh, Nagaland, Mizoram, and Manipur. The Naga people living in these border areas are also going to be severely impacted by the border fencing construction that has already started in some places. In this context, in solidarity with the various tribal bodies and organizations that have come out publicly against scrapping of FMR, the 14th Nagaland Legislative Assembly has also passed a resolution on FMR along the Indo-Naga Myanmar border, stating that suspension of FMR will cause immense hardship and inconveniences and add agony to the Naga people living in Indo-Myanmar border areas. The efforts that are being put in by the civil society organizations, student bodies, and other groups must be intensified. We must let the government of India realize in no uncertain terms that Nagas are not in favor of further dividing the Naga people by constructing a physical fencing along the border.
The topic says Nagas tomorrow, the vision. I think it is important for us Nagas to have a vision, to have hope, and seeing all of you, the younger generation, the unique way in which the Naga Students Federation and its tribal units have been forming the program of the Naga Morung from last year and taking us to the southernmost corner of the Naga areas today, here in Chandel. This is my first visit. We are so impressed, we are so happy that we really have these kind of open lands and fields and people and so much that nature has to give us. I think we should be grateful to our young and the younger generation, the team of leaders that have brought all of us here today. The political struggle that we have had, the long years of suffering, the rapes, the AFSPA, the Armed Forces Special Powers Act, the tears of women and mothers, are all things that have been said and done and continue to be. The ray of hope that should come to the Nagas is and must come from the younger generation, from the younger leaders. And I always say, Naga society is formed in such a way that we worship our elders, we worship the older generation, and we often forget that there is so much of precious wisdom that is available in the younger generation, in younger leaders. And therefore, if Nagas are to look forward to the future, if we are to look forward to a vision of the future, it must be a vision that is led by young people. It must be a vision that is moved by younger people. It must be a vision which must be continued by the younger generation. And it is the younger generation that gives us hope. When we talk about the struggle and when we talk about our present situation and the negativity that surrounds us, the amount of the cacophony of voices that have sprung up on the political stage, whereas Ningolo had said earlier, people who had never even known or were never known even in the political movement have now gained center stage back home in Nagaland, where all the drama is unfolding for us and the days ahead. But I think Nagas are not fools. We are deeply embedded in the political struggle. Our parents have been, our grandparents have been. We are probably the third, fourth generation that is still deeply embedded in the innuendos, in the complexities, in the implications of what a future, a political future, will hold for us, Nagas. It is also important at this stage to think and see how other countries have also been able to gain their freedom, to have their sovereignty. I think last year too I had mentioned, I'm going to mention the same, I think it is important to think of the Irish Republic. The Irish peace process went on for years on end. And we Nagas, because we are getting tired of a peace process, we think that ours is very different, ours is unique. It is not. Other peace processes in other countries too have faced this kind of dilemma, this kind of struggle, these kind of stumbling blocks, and yet they have been able to do it. The Good Friday Agreement, which was signed in Belfast, began the beginning of a power-sharing government between the nationalist and the unionist. It was an agreement between the Irish Republican Army, which was then known as the most deadliest terrorist group in the world for their bombing and for their acts of terror in the UK. The peace agreement that finally was signed with the Irish Republican Army, the armed group, and the sitting government made headlines throughout the world. I had just come back from Belfast. I'd been there on the training in the UK. And when we visited Belfast, the parliament, the Irish parliament was locked. It was standing on a high hill, grand, big, huge, it was locked. And when we asked them why the building was locked, they said because the peace process was on. And how excited we were when the day the peace was signed and those parliament doors were thrown open. And you saw resistance groups that you saw only behind black masks, the IRA, sitting across the parliamentarians in the Irish parliament and signing the peace deal. I think these are examples for us Nagas, present-day Nagas, present-day elders who think that the whole government, the tribe leaders, everyone who's available, the Gamburas, everyone who's available, actually we should be there on the stage and then peace is going to come for us. I don't think so. Nagas need to study, Nagas need to learn about other histories and other countries where peace has come, where political settlements have come. And I can tell you, the government of India, let us not take for granted that the government of India is foolish or ignorant. The government of India is very well aware how peace settlements are signed, how countries have come with peace accords. And why not the Nagas? We should. East Timor, which finally gained its independence in the 21st century, one of the latest to gain its independence from Indonesia. I met the president of East Timor in Rome in a First World Congress of the United Nations. And you can imagine he was the only black man addressing an all-white audience. And I remember he was challenging the white audience and telling them, we can only thank you for HIV and AIDS, he told the European audience. And the only thing we black people gave you, at that time we had the mad cow disease going on. And so he said, the only thing that you can thank us for is the mad cow disease, you know. But the kind of speech that he gave was so impressive, and I thought, the kind of leader that Nagas need for the future is a man like him, a man who led his country to freedom, a man who stands on accountability, transparency, no corruption, a man who told in the audience that his mobile number is with every citizen in Timor. Can you imagine our chief ministers of Manipur, or maybe Assam, even of Nagaland, can you imagine any one of us having easy access to the mobile number of the chief minister? They guard it like a precious jewel, isn't it? And they forget that it's the people who put them on the chair. And these are the kind of leaders that I see in the younger generation today, in the younger leaders sitting here before us. These are the kind of leaders, change makers that we need for the Nagas tomorrow. We don't really need mindsets that will not change, mindsets that don't want to read, mindsets that don't want to look at other countries. We need a changing environment. We need a struggle that is going to take us to some kind of a solution, but it has to also get the support of the younger generation. We need the younger generation. And this is where my appeal today to the younger generation, to the Naga Students Federation, to the tribe units here, to all the students who are gathered here, if you are listening, is that it is time for all of us and for you, the younger generation, to stand up and take your place, to stand up and say it is time to have peace, peace in your land, and bring honor to your parents, to your grandparents, to your relatives who have died and given their lives. This is the time, this is the moment. And I think it is only when the younger generation rises up in chorus, it is only then that we will see changes. We will see the government reconsidering the scrapping of the free movement regime. I don't know how many of us sitting here, maybe only those from the border areas, have walked the breadth and length of Myanmar. We from the Naga Mothers, the peace team, we have walked all areas of the Naga areas in Myanmar. And you cannot imagine the difference of lives, our lives and their lives, the poverty, the lack of roads, the lack of medical amenities, lack of food. Forget other things, lack of food, no salt, no roads. In hundreds of schools that the Burmese government has opened up in the Naga self-administered zone, there are hardly 1 or 2 high schools. And it reminds me of the Native Americans in America, where the Americans said they wanted to develop the Native Americans. They taught them English. They took the children to the English boarding schools. They took the parents to hundreds of miles away in another Indian reservation so that the parents and children don't ever see each other. And yet, when we went on the fellowship to the US government, on the US government fellowship, and interacted with Native Americans in Sacramento, it was shocking that in 2000, in developed America, you had Native Americans who had not passed their 10th standard. And this was the country where Christopher Columbus invaded. And therefore, when we look at what is happening in Myanmar to our Nagas, it is our responsibility, the Nagas from the West, it is our responsibility to ensure that development reaches them. This is the future we must envision. A future where we are able to walk freely into their areas without being scared of the army or the junta, to go and help them, to go and do whatever we can, because we speak the same language, and we speak the same language of the heart because we are all Nagas. The identity of the Nagas is the same everywhere, whether we live in Nagaland, whether you live in Manipur, whether you live in Assam, the Assam hills, whether you live on the hills of Arunachal, Tirap, Changlang, and Longding, or whether you live in the impoverished areas of the Naga hills of Myanmar. This is a call also for the younger generation and also for us elders, tribe elders, community elders who are all here. How many of us reach out beyond our communities, beyond our tribes, and how many of us really think of the Nagas in Myanmar? They need us. And the best that we can do in the coming days is to reach out for them. And I've had Naga Myanmar leaders telling us, we protected you when you ran away from the Indians. When you came, you fought in our land. We protected you, we fed you. And today there's no one to feed us. Today you cannot even stand up for us. This cannot be the future of the Nagas. For the future of the Nagas to be bright, we must make the most of it. I'm told that Chandel is just around an hour's drive from Myanmar, from the borders in Myanmar. This is the closest that we can get to the border. How much of potential. The future for the Nagas, the younger generation, is education and agriculture. Education, because it's such a competitive world. The more you study, the more you excel in education, you will never find yourself helpless. There will always be something for you to do, to teach your community, to do something. We hardly have universities. The universities we have are central funded universities. We have very few private Naga universities. What about thinking of setting up universities in all Naga areas, colleges in all Naga areas? Every time I come to Manipur, I'm shocked with the difference of development in the valley, where most of my academic work has been with Manipur University, and the hill areas. The first time I went to Ukhrul, which was just a few years back, I thought Ukhrul reminded me of a cowboy town. And the reason is because the Naga movement has been such an expensive movement. It has taken their best youth, the best lives, their best energies towards the movement, so much so that people have not had time to develop our towns, our villages, to give time to our children, to give time to plan for the future.
Nagaland TV, Sop Manulaga Awas. Watch us live on Geo TV and on your television sets as well. For Dimapur viewers, we are on channel number 10 in Global Chapter, and for Kohima and Mokokchung viewers, switch to channel number 138 on Hornbill Digital. For all news and updates, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube and Twitter.